Hello, this is Kara from Kara Tarot with my walkthrough of the Angel Wisdom Tarot by Raleigh Valentine with illustrations by Dan Craig. I am setting a goal for myself to go through each of my decks in a walkthrough, even though I have almost no decks that are so unique that they really need another walkthrough, except this is a way for me of reviewing the decks that I have personally and sharing them, of course. And for people who like me and my take on things, then to give them my take on the decks that I have. I did mention this deck recently before I go on. What I'm planning to do then is in my deck flip through playlist, I'm planning to make it alphabetical, and I'll have to edit the titles a little bit to make sure that the name of the tarot deck is first. So like Angel Wisdom Tarot would be the first thing that shows up, so that is how they alphabetize in the list. So it should make it very easy to find the decks. If it's something like the Angel Wisdom Tarot, I'll put Angel Wisdom Tarot, the, in much the same way one might in a library, so that you're actually looking by the title without that, I think it's an article. I'm not that much of a grammar nerd to remember the names of each of the parts of speech. Anyway, so I don't think this isn't my first, but I have to go back and see. I have several Alice in Wonderland decks with a variety of titles, and I've also already done a walkthrough of one of those, and also the Alchemical Tarot would have been before this, but I just wanted to start here because it was already at my desk. This was a deck that I actually had in a recent video of decks I don't use and why, or decks I have not used very much and why. And so this gives me an additional way to talk a little bit more about this deck. I'm not particularly drawn to Raleigh Valentine's work in general. It is because it is positivity. His work is all positivity based, and I do think that life and reading should be a mixture of light and dark. As I've said, I think the drawings in this deck are kind of a little too, they're somewhere between Victorian illustration, children's book illustrations, and Thomas Kincaid artwork. That being said, I really like the artwork of this deck much more than many of his other decks. It's that, and the fact that it was on a more than 50% off sale is why I got it. I thought, can't hurt. Why not try it? So it has a lovely box, really nice hard box. This is Hay House. I think they have gotten very consistent in their presentation. The guidebook is nice and chunky. It is over 230 pages, or just right about 230 pages. It has 2 spreads, a 3-card spread and a Celtic Cross spread. He has about 5 pages about his work with angels. And then he has his definitions of the cards along the lines of these positivity alignments. And now he has relegated the angels to 15 archangels. And he has put a symbol on the corner of each card. I'll move to the cards now so I can talk about this a little bit more. But I did want to say, the artwork, despite the things I don't like about the artwork, overall, I like this artwork so much better than most of his decks. This is one of the ones I think looks a bit too much like a Thomas Kincaid painting for me. And so it's important to know, like, if you love Victorian, the Victorian paintings of cats with big eyes and children, that are those sweet, sweet Victorian era paintings. If you love the artwork of Thomas Kinkade, add a marvelous multicultural element to it, and this will be a deck that you like. So we have in all of these cards, the Dreamer is the Fool, the first card. And there are many elements of the representations that I do like in this deck. The other thing I will say before we start is I really like his almost kind of affirmations sometimes, and descriptions of the cards on the card. And I like what he says. He clearly has a facility with his writing and his knowledge of the decks in that he's not just able to talk about this particular card, but he's able to frame the way he talks about the card within the concept of this deck. So that's like, if you put it in musical terms, it's someone who could take a Chopin piece and play it in like Mozart, and then play it like a jazz master, and then play it as a Sicilian. So he has that facility to his writing and his concepts, and I will give him credit on that. That shows a depth of knowledge. And he's also framing them all within positivity. So if those things are your bag, this is really going to be a deck that you will enjoy, I think. Now, as we look at each card, let me find his breakdown to make sure I'm not missing anything. He has the magical meanings of the cards. So the major arcana have the Archangel Association. Again, there are 15 archangels, and the card number. The minor arcana have the Archangel Association, and then the card number of the major arcana associated with the minor arcana, the card, and the suit. So we'll get to that in a bit when we get to the minors. So you've seen enough now to see the artwork is kind of romance novel cover artwork. Yeah, he's a freelance illustrator, so that is not outside the realm of possibility. Many things that I like about these images. And as I said, I wouldn't have gotten this deck if it hadn't been big time on sale. Like this concept of the wheel. He's renamed some of them. Instead of the Hanged Man, Awakening. Instead of death, it's release. Balance instead of temperance. Ego instead of the devil. Transformation instead of the tower. I love the fact that these are, within this type of illustration, there's such a wonderful multicultural representation. I love that. Now, you will have noticed already the reusing of some faces in these. I'm not crazy about that aspect. So now here we are in the minors, where this is fire. So we have the little fire symbol. It is the 1 of fire. It has the archangel symbol, and it tells you that it is related to the 0 card in the majors, the dreamer. This card is one of the reasons I got this deck. I love everything about this. But I think you can see this isn't really representative of the artwork of the rest of the deck. This one's kind of different. But there's lots here for intuitive hits. Now, here, what he says for the 7 of Wands. Stand up for yourself and your beliefs. Have confidence. Challenge those in power, but also choose your battles wisely. I read, I don't do predictive reading. I read more for psychological help and psychological awareness and depth when I read for people. So this is very much the way that I read. And so I really like these. And it's one reason that even though I don't use this deck much, I'm keeping it because I really like having the touchstone of what he's written for this deck. And now we move to the water suit. Again, the 1, and then it relates to the high priestess because it's 2, and it relates to the archangel. There's a, here it is, there's a chart in here. It tells you H is Haniel. And then there's another place in here where he says what each one of those is known for. Now, I watch a lot of talks by Orthodox priests, and one of the things they say is that you're not supposed to name your guardian angel. And the reason is guardian angels are not meant to be commanded by us. Guardian angels are there to help us, but they are only under the command of God. And so this concept of getting to know your guardian angel so you can call it by name is really not in line with what most religions say. I mean, it's not that far off from naming a demon and summoning a demon. It's just, it's not in the realm of things we're supposed to be doing. So that could, it's a fine line of, knowing it, now this isn't giving you, some decks try to tell you how to figure out the name of your guardian angel. I don't know, who's going to verify that, for one thing. But these names, knowing these names and what they are known for is, arguably that's a great knowledge set to have. So the 7 of Cups, let's just look at this. Make a choice, Stop procrastinating or overanalyzing. Get clarity on what you desire and move forward. Could also represent too many options or addictions. Interesting parallel with the ace that was a very young mermaid, and now we have more teenage looking mermaid for the page. Did I say romance novel cover? Yeah, and romance novel cover. There we have it. And so now we move to the air sign with the swords. Let's look at the Three of Swords here. Now you see a big change in the imagery here of the Three of Swords for a positivity deck. We do have the heart image there and 3 swords. Great sadness that will heal with time. Let go of the past. Personal growth that comes from challenges. Healing misunderstandings. Being there for those in needs. Now those are wonderful, positive ways to think about the Three of Swords. But within the scheme of the story of the entire deck, this is softening one of the darkest cards in a way that, so that you don't have the full emotional range. Now, so this is one of the pluses, is that it makes it for a very gentle deck. So for people that are really afraid of this type of thing, this makes it very gentle and very positive. So an interesting, again, here, a depiction of, I'm picking out the negative ones to read because I do think he has an interesting slant on them. And these are the ones that are most divergent from a normal kind of interpretation. So here, the 9 of Swords. So we have the sword hilts becoming the candles. I actually really like this depiction. Unfounded fear, expecting the worst, thus creating self-fulfilling prophecies, allowing worry to grow out of proportion to the situation, sleepless nights, refocus your thoughts. Whether I agree with having the swords be candles, which would be a source of light, it's still a beautiful representation. And so traditionally the worst card in the deck, and that's the depiction of it. So it moves very much into the transition meaning and not into any of the negative meanings of the card. So basically in this deck, I would say none of the upright meanings have a negative meaning. And I don't think he recommends... Yeah, he does not include a reversal, meaning he tells you sometimes what something could mean on a more negative slant. Lovely. Let's see, while she's often known, the Queen of Swords, often known as a widow, this says divorced or unmarried individuals. It takes out the widow component. And now we get to the Earth. I'm going to set this aside because I want to compare it to the 8. I often find that the 3 and the 8, people switch their meanings to the point that it's hard to know really what the firm meaning of either one of them is. Lovely inclusivity, but I think this is the only wheelchair that we see here in this deck. A sweet depiction of this, but it doesn't look like she's resting, and that's kind of an important part of this card meaning. Okay, so here we have the 3, and here we have the 8. This one clearly looks more like apprenticeship, and this one more focusing on your own work. I personally would flip those images, but I do know people that interpret these cards in this way. They would consider this mastery and this apprenticeship. And I often consider the 3 to be the apprenticeship because it's 3 people working together as opposed to mastery, working on your own. But I think there's a flow between those because it really does depend on the imagery and the creation of the deck. And then the 9, a lovely depiction of the 9. This is reminiscent of Robert M. Place's decks where the coins are stacked in a pillar in some of the imagery. So I would say that's a testament to the knowledge of either the author or the artist of other decks and the imagery of other decks. Oh, and I'll read this for the Knight of Pentacles because he's my dream boy. Loyal, dedicated, protective, apprehensive, plan carefully before taking action, but then get going. Pay attention to the details, wait for the perfect timing. A guardian angel or someone who watches over you. Now, notice the court cards do not have the guardian angel association, nor do they have the major card association as the pips have those. That's just a different thing to notice here. In some ways, he is equating the court cards more with attitudes and character traits in much the same way that the Golden Tarot of the Tsar does. Not so much as a description of an individual. So there you have it. The Angel Wisdom Tarot of Raleigh Valentine with illustrations by Dan Craig. For me, the standout of this deck is the way he has described each one of the cards. This is Kara from Kara Tarot. I hope this has been informative and useful to you as you consider what decks you want to add or take away from your collection. Thank you.